You were to pick a car that you could daily, that is set up the way that you like. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, cheapest, but a car that you would be like, I'd own that, put it in my garage today and drive it as much as possible.
IND M2. This is what I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think all around car would be the M3 Touring. That was sick seeing that.
I'm taking actually the wide body from our booth.
I was thinking about it.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Labeled Podcast, episode 3.
4.
Trey?
Yeah.
5? No,
4.
Trey is 3.
Yeah.
Four. It's 4.
It is 4?
Yeah.
Holy cow. I can't. I guess I can't keep it straight. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. I do want to start this podcast off by asking you to share, like, subscribe to this. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, tune in, jump over there, shoot us a rating. It all really helps the algorithms and things to keep us being able to produce these, so it's really important. Today, I think we're going to talk about...
I think we're going to dive into SEMA a little bit.
The big SEMA show.
Oh, yeah.
Evan's first visit to the SEMA show.
Yep.
And Evan, I know you had a good time there. What was your overall, experience being your first time at SEMA? But you've seen, I guess, some of the clips from SEMA and stuff before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So seen a lot of stuff from YouTubers, kind of just like Stradman, like those two people that have brought cars there, and kind of just seen like the overall idea, if you will, kind of like of what it is and stuff like that. But when you actually go, it's a whole other thing. It's so much bigger. You know it's big going into it, but it's so much bigger than it actually looks on all. There's so much more you just don't see on all these videos that you think you see. So for me, it was super overwhelming to Sure. I went into it knowing I was gonna get overwhelmed, so it wasn't as bad. But I knew it was pretty overwhelming. I had a blast. That was awesome. But just being around all the best cars that are probably in the U.S. if not the world in one spot is super cool, and just kind of just being there and experiencing that was super cool. So yeah.
And I'm going to call you out, Evan, because you can't use cool as the adjective all the time. You got to say
Right.
SEMA was fantastic, outstanding. Trust me, I do the same thing. When you watch yourself enough on screen and you're like, okay, I'm saying that way too much. And I still do it now. But I know Evan had a blast. If you guys aren't aware, Evan actually covered all the content from SEMA. So all of the videos, the reels, the reveal with Christy Lee, which was a really cool experience. Evan got some photography and some video of that, I think, that we shared. Eventually, we'll get a lot of that stuff updated. We just have so much content that it's hard to get all of it filtered and a home online. But it was a great experience for me this year. There's a lot of hard work getting to where we were. Nothing new with SEMA, considering the way that we want to have a car presented out there. And we were able to do some things a little quicker this time, a better quality, I think. I know this time for you, Justin, you were less under the gun as far as wrapping the car, right?
That was nice.
And you're familiar with the film. If you guys have seen the car, it's a satin pistachio. And Justin had a great relationship with Avery in the past and brought them over. And Avery supported us in this full build this time, right? So why don't you, talking about that wrapping process on there, a lot of people ask us, can they get that color? Yeah. And I guess just explain that process of how we take like a vinyl and we want to create a sheen with it, how that happens, because that was all new to me too. And I think that's something interesting that another thing that we do here, that if we find a color, for example, in a vinyl, we can kind of alter that color, right? To get something specific for the car.
Yeah, that's what's kind of unique. So it's kind of blending the two of like commercial graphics and the wrap world. So you're taking an over laminate. So they have all different sheens of over laminate. They also have over laminate that has sparkle, glitter. We've used that in the past.
Yeah.
On a pink SUV we just added like rainbow glitter to it basically, which is just a clear film, super thin, and it goes on top of the vinyl. So with the pistachio, we were honored to have Avery support us with this, and we started off with a gloss pistachio, and then sent it over to some local guys in town who had a laminator. They laminated the satin luster over laminate on the film and created the satin film. So it does make the film a little bit thicker to work with. So it is kind of a little more complex on some of the radiuses and stuff, but overall, obviously with Avery, it's fantastic to work with. So yeah, it's cool to be able to create something that you don't see in a swatch book.
Right.
It's like we had this vision of what color we wanted. We've thought about the pistachio forever, and so to create it in the satin, we're thinking about maybe, well, should we satin PPF over the gloss, or should we laminate it? And yeah, the laminating was fantastic. It is a little fragile. We've learned that, but for a show car, it works fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I want everybody to kind of know is like we try to find the most viable option to create what we want to create. Usually that's the big hang up or delay with things is there'll be a small item or detail that we want to touch on a car and we can't figure it out. You know, it's not a easily sourced thing, or you need to wait on other people to get back to you with what our options are. And that's always why I harp on how much time we have with a car, because if we're doing a full build, I like to be able to investigate different methods of, you know, how we're going to do something on the car, specifically on those wide bodies, because every car is a little different. And when we add an accent color, you know, we might think of doing something with the rocker trims. We might do something on the interior. We might do something with the suspension. You know, we've done all kinds of, you know, crazy stuff as far as how you bring in accents and details. And really, to me, I think that's what differentiates our builds, is that our details are a little different on the cars.
Yeah, and trying to find a unique color, too. Nowadays, it's like you see everything online. It's like there's so many cool colors, but then it's like everybody does it. So it's like we're trying to find something unique, and that was the pistachio color initially. I mean, tell them kind of the story of where that color came from, because we talked about it, I don't know, what was that, 4 years ago we wanted to do it on some project?
And I think it started at a show Christina and I were at. It was like a all Corvette show, and I saw, you know, I'm not really good with the vintage year Corvettes, but it was a 60s Corvette. And they had, if you guys remember, they had those pastel colors. So like the very like cream yellow. They have a Cascade green. They had the, you know, like that sky blue that we did on the prototype one. They had browns, just like colors that you just don't see them nowadays being produced on cars. And I told Christina, I'm like, you know, it'd be really cool to see. I think it was a 57 Chevy we saw. They did even the green tint on just the very light green tint on the glass.
Oh, that's sick.
So it was like super vintage retro feeling. And I'm like, can you imagine doing like just an insane modern, like wide body carbon fiber, and then you've got this retro color. And I even talked about like doing the tint, which we never ended up following through with the tint. But doing something like that on a car like that would just be unique. Plus it ties in, to me, the lineage and the story to the actual car. So that's the other thing I like to do, is investigate what is maybe historical with the brand of car that we're working on. So that's sometimes how you'll draw some inspiration on how can we tie something that has meaning to the car that not necessarily anybody would even really know about unless you told them that story. And I think that's what really makes a car thoughtful at that point. You didn't just go in and say, hey, give me a candy color that I'm going to put on the car and it's going to be, you know, really cool. You really do some investigation, like into some of the Porsche stuff. I've looked into like some Porsche lineage, and we've done that, I think, on livery stuff. You know, even for your own personal projects, looking into liveries and saying, how can we tie this into the car that we're trying to put it on?
Try to modernize it, put our own touch on it, own colors.
Exactly. I think that's the fun part of the business that we get to muddle through. Again, why timing is so important on the cars too, is that it gives you the time to think through things. And I think that's why we're very fortunate to have the clients that we do, is they appreciate that aspect of it. But not to get too far off of topic, the color came out great on the car. Obviously, if you guys have seen some of the photos and videos that Evan took, the car is a twin turbo car. It is a stage 1 head and cam car, so the car's got a nasty lope to it. It has just the back half of the car is is another world now. We used to think it was cool because of the exhaust. Now with the equal length headers from Solaritech, it looks like a spider on top of the engine.
Right.
You kind of pop that hatch and people are like, okay, I don't know what I'm
Everybody
looking at.
just like pauses for like 10 seconds. They're like, what am I looking at again?
Literally drops jaws.
It does, yeah.
Every time.
It's cool because I've always wanted to do something like that. And when Solaritech, who's based out of, is it Netherlands? Yeah. And they do a lot of BMW European stuff. If you haven't checked them out, check out Solaritech online. You'll see some of their stuff. It's basically art. And on some of those BMW engines and stuff, they're twisting, the V10s, they're twisting for 4 feet as they come up out of there. It's just amazing. And you can't accomplish that on this car. But what they did do with this is just make it's obviously a statement, and being able to see it through the glass and everything is really cool. We're still doing some testing, some heat testing, and we're bound here in Michigan by winter on what we think is being radiated to the glass in there. We have some heat strips that we're going to run on there. And then if any alterations need to be made, we're going to make them, but we first put it in there uncoated. Jet Hot has offered to coat again, like they've always done in the past for us.
Awesome.
Which is amazing, and it really keeps temperatures down. I always recommend that. Obviously, the full exhaust has been coated like we've done in the past, but overall, this was built to be a showpiece, so that's kind of why we approach this one with that setup. But they do intend on making these in production form. I know there's going to be some minor changes to them, but again, just a really unique conversation starter for the car. And I just can't wait to get videos of the car like on the street. The sound
clips.
get some mics on it. Everybody's been asking us for it. And sorry, guys. I mean, we're
stuck.
Yeah, we're forced inside these 4 walls right now. And it's easy to get jealous of everybody else throughout the country still going to events and taking their SEMA cars out and doing stuff. Yeah. But kind of the nature of the beast. But you guys have seen, we partnered with HP Tuners. HP Tuners unlocked the Global B platform now for the C8. Not yet for the Z06, but for the C8. So now the car is obviously all tuned. We don't have any check engine light, any codes. Car makes great, reliable power. And I just can't wait to spend some seat time in the car this summer. Yeah. But overall, the experience with HP, the location and everything was amazing.
It was unreal.
Yeah. Amazing. I've got 0 complaints from the entire experience. HP welcomed us in with them. We went to, was that K1?
Yep.
Speed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the HP, celebrity team was there, like Brad DeBerti. There was a bunch of who were the guys from overseas? And remember?
Oh,
there were a couple like
some GT3 drivers, and then Blake Wilkie was there. Some of his buddies and stuff. So it was fun to watch them rip around the track, just bash each other and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a really good time. And just overall a great experience. It's kind of what we worked towards. Car got home safe. Everybody got home without COVID this time. Last time I was deathly ill in the hotel, locked up for a few days. It kind of ruined my whole experience. But overall, no complaints. Good to be back. Good to have that experience. And I think we're going to have a bunch more content of the car coming out as we get later on into 2024.
And it seemed like this year, too, SEMA was back. I mean, I didn't go prior, like 2018, 2017 when it was popping. But as from what you said, it's back to where it was. And it was jam-packed this year. It was awesome.
Crazy.
It was full. It's good to see that. And I think that's just letting everybody know the industry's not going anyplace. People were worried about after COVID what would happen, if people would come back out to shows, if EVs were taking over. The big talk the year before was, oh no, GM's not coming, Ford's not coming. At the end of the day, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I was the one that was like, okay, good, because really they take up floor space for people like us or the aftermarket companies that build parts for us. The manufacturers come in, they cut a big check, and I get it. I understand why SEMA wants them in there, but they're there for one reason, that's to sell cars. We're there for another reason, which is to build cars. So for me, it was good to see that space all full with the custom car industry.
Because I think the only OEM was Toyota.
Yeah.
Which they do it fantastic. I mean, they do some crazy builds, which is really cool.
Yep. Yeah. Toyota supports the tuners in the aftermarket. That's what I'm really disappointed with Chevrolet. Ford does more supporting of, I think, aftermarket than Chevrolet. Chevrolet seems to be the worst. They don't like to put their name on anything that they haven't developed or done, or it doesn't bring them big views. So, we do get a lot of those question guys, and we hear you, hey, you should approach GM. You should have Chevy come do something. Trust us, they know who we are. They've seen us. They know who I am. They make it a point not to look our way, which stinks because we have to buy their cars, in order to do these things. And they make great cars. That's the reason why we're using them to build cars. So I really wish that maybe sometime in the future, they get some change in marketing, and maybe they decide to reach out to people. And it doesn't have to be us, but people that have supported General Motors and have to support General Motors to do what we do. It would be nice not for them to bless us or tell us, hey, you guys are great, but just to be even recognized or on a platform with them because we strive to do our best with the products that they provide us. But, moving on to less serious things, let's talk about favorite cars at SEMA. And if I had to put you on the spot, I'm going to let you go first, Justin. And I know a couple of cars that might be your favorite, but I'm sure you got some wild cards in there for me. What if you were to walk up, and there's no limits on this one. So let's say your first choice is if you were to pick a car that you could daily, that is set up the way that you like. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, cheapest, but a car that you would be like, I'd own that, put it in my garage today and drive it as much as possible.
Okay. I think I'm going down the route of, you guys you probably know it, but the IND M2. It was right down the road from our booth, and it was unbelievable. They checked every box of that car. They had custom carbon fenders on it, carbon hood, every carbon accent on it. The interior was, the new modern M interior is unbelievable. It would be a perfect daily, manual transmission, bunch of power. It just checked every box for me. And the color, it looks so good. I've been watching that car get built, and then to see it there, I was like, yeah, that's doing it for me. I'm a big BMW guy, so that's probably my choice of car, but I don't know. I feel like it's a good choice. It's a good daily.
I've heard you say that's going to be a build one day. That's going to be in the shop when the time comes.
Yeah.
Evan? No. It's not Evan's turn yet. It's still your turn.
All
now,
right.
no budget. The car can sit in the garage. You have other cars to drive. Say you got the M2 already. So you're going to have a fun daily. But the car that's like, I throw everything to the wind. I don't have to have practicality. This is it.
This one's going to take a minute to think about. There's so many good options too. And like you start thinking about some of the classics that, geez.
Right.
I'm probably going to have to go probably with the Huna Pegasus.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was sitting out there, and see that car, to own that car, the amount of R&D went into that thing, I can't imagine what it's like to drive. Right. I think that car would just be wicked. And that's obviously no budget. So
right, exactly.
It'd just be a fun car to have.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Good choice.
It's got some legacy to it.
So now we go to the youngster.
Yeah, this is what I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think all-around car would be the M3 Touring. That was sick, seeing that.
Okay.
That car was
Who
cool.
had that? Was that in KW or BBS?
That was right by Pit and
right by turn 14.
Yeah.
It might have been in turn 14.
Turn 14. Yeah, it was. It was.
I think so.
Just because that car was so cool to see, because we don't get that over here. So seeing that car alone was sick, and then seeing it super modified, that was super cool. Yeah. So that was, I think, I'm just a sucker for wagons too. So I think it
checks every box.
Yeah. I think my all-around no budget car would either be me and Justin were walking around before the show started, and we saw an F40, P1, and a Diablo, all on BBS wheels. So I think it'd have to be either the F40 or the P1 on BBS wheels.
You're only taking one, dude.
Crazy.
You're only taking
you gotta
one.
pick one. There's no either.
F40.
F40 on BBS. Shout out to Jesse. You heard that, Jesse. Jesse Heeman's my buddy, who's the vice president of sales for BBS. This kid wants an F40 with BBSs on it. So
one day.
I think he'll take that.
Got a lot of photos to take for that.
Yeah, just
we'll get there.
Oh, yeah. I'm not doubting you.
No.
All right.
What
is a big dog?
Woo. My choice? Daily, I'm taking, actually, the wide body from our booth.
I was thinking about it.
I mean, that's an easy one for me. Not because there aren't a bunch of other cars I would enjoy driving, but I'm very excited about this one. Just because it checks all the boxes for me and what I would want to do with something. And it's reasonably accomplished. It's not something that you break the complete budget on. But now, going to the next level, I'm torn. Both my cars were in the MV Forged booth, and both, I think, provided by Lance over at Rift. And those guys got some good taste.
Oh, yeah.
I got to say. And David has said, we got to get you guys over here in the booth next year. And I said, listen, we can only build probably one car a year. So I don't know that we're not on Si's level. If you guys know Si at Creative Bespoke, we've talked about him. Si's a friend. Si's banging out, 8 cars for SEMA. I don't know how he does it. He's got a huge team based out of Scottsdale, and their stuff is insane.
Crazy.
And they do amazing work. But I think I would probably, just because it's new, now I don't necessarily want to pick a McLaren, but I think the full Rift wide body, all carbon
765.
765 would have done it for me. And maybe not do all exposed on it, but do something, in a livery, but also keep exposed carbon on all of the panels. So like do something where we're almost reversing out and you can see every panel's carbon, but also do a design on the car, just because that car, Rift knocked it out of the park with that. Those guys, they've got some great engineers, great carbon guys that they're working with.
That says a lot, because from what I know, I think that P1 is up there on the top of your list. If you're not picking that.
The P1 is, but it's getting a little sleepy for me because there's, I've seen them with wheels on, I've seen them wrapped, and they're awesome. I think it's a great car to have, but one that I want to put some personalization to it.
There's not much you can do.
Yeah, right. I mean, the P1 kind of is what it is, which I think is great. But ultimately, I think I want to put some attitude into it. And with the offerings for the 765, you can do that.
Yep.
That's true.
And that's kind of the same way I felt about the Senna. I liked the Senna that was in the MV booth. But same thing. What are you going to do to that car other than change up color and maybe do some wheels on it? So the 765, I think, is a good platform for that. Now, if you can keep it running, or if you have some issues with it in the future, that's a whole nother thing. But we're talking about dreamland here.
Right,
so.
Exactly. Was that a wide body kit, or was that just standard flares?
Wide body.
It was.
Yeah, and that was every panel on the car.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was wicked.
Yeah, I think Evan took some shots of it after hours because we were actually sending that to a client. But you got to take a look at that. And that applies to the 720 too. So you can do that full program on the 720 as well. That client opted to do it on the 765. From Lance, he told me, he was like, he's a guy that he wanted to have the 765 and the complete body on it, where we could have done the same thing with a 720. And I said, I get it. We've got clients that want to do that. So no harm. So we've got our dream cars and our dailies picked out. I'm going to go off the wall with you guys. We haven't scripted, no talk, no talking beforehand. You went to Vegas this year. We all had different experiences. Justin, tell me one place you went to Vegas that the food was really good and that you'd visit again.
That's new for this year, or just in general?
Whatever. New. I would say new for this year, or if there was a restaurant you went to this year that stood out to you and you were like, okay, that's got to be a...
I would say Tao.
Tao?
We went to Tao again this year, and I mean, it just checks every box. It's everything that comes out. You're just like, how is this so good?
And you could taste this year.
I could taste this year. Yeah, the first year I went to Tao was 2021. I had COVID a couple of weeks before, and I couldn't taste. So I got my redemption on Tao, and it was unbelievable. Yeah, I love Tao.
And I was always yelling at Justin in 21. I was like, dude, stop eating. You don't need to eat that.
Like, go grab a PB&J. I'm like, dude, no.
We can stop at a gas station on the way. Evan, I don't know where you got to go, and I think your dad was in town too, right? I don't know if you guys went any place, but did you have any food experiences that you liked?
Yeah, so me and my dad didn't really go bunch of places because we're all kind of tied up all day.
Yeah.
But Momofuku, is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Momofuku?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then after we had that, I was trying to go back, I think, every single night after that. I was like, Dad, we got to go. It's super
That's right. What did you have there that you were like?
Everything we had, I loved. So, but there was something, what was it, like shrimp bun or something like that?
Oh, yeah,
What was that?
bao buns.
And the pork buns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember
So
Evan.
good.
It was funny because Christina thought it was cute. Evan was like, I don't know what that is, but I like that. I want to have
another
that.
one?
He's like, what? Can I have one of those? Yeah, give me that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like that part of it. And we're certainly not making fun because, there was a time I knew nothing about any of that. And people took me there and I was like, yo, this is insane, and then that just is something that I really look forward to every year. Like when we go to Vegas, and Justin, more than Evan, obviously, but like when Christina and I go there, we don't necessarily gamble. We go and we have reservations that we set up months in advance of restaurants that we want to go and try or go back to that we've had great experiences with, and also do some shopping because the shopping's really good out there. If anything, that's where we save up money through the year and go and splurge a little bit and kind of reward ourselves for all of the time that we've worked, leading up to that, because we don't take vacations. We don't take a lot of time for ourselves. So we look at that as being like our getaway.
Yeah.
And have some fun. And obviously we're still doing some work, and we're also working on trying to maybe do something like that in the summer where we have time to step away. I know you guys like to hike and things like that and want to step away and do that. And I think that's important. It's just we've been in such a growth mode that, I haven't had time to really step away. And even though I do, I also don't want to sacrifice the amazing growth that we have had here and make sure that I still put what's required of it, because we're not at the point where we can just let off the gas and say, oh yeah, we made it, but the Vegas experience has been really good for us. Yeah. We tend to stay at the Wynn. I know this year you guys stayed at an Airbnb, was it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. You guys have had some good experiences with Airbnb. Evan's first experience was at the Circus.
The one and only.
The Circus of Circuses.
Yeah.
I've never been inside.
Don't need to.
You never did any
Don't need to.
penny slots in there?
What's in there?
They got penny slots, like the OG penny slots.
Everything.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I did not go in the pennies.
You're good. You don't. No, you're all right.
So we'll get you lined up next year with maybe we'll have them at Sahara. That's a good step.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
You're like a Hilton or like
It's reasonable.
something. Yeah.
Holiday Inn Express
Yeah.
would beat the Circus.
That probably would beat it.
Continental breakfast,
Something
right?
where I don't have to wait 25 minutes to go down a floor for an elevator.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, but we're skating away from the topic. Mr. Foodie,
What's the topic?
Oh right.
what was your favorite eat of the year
Yeah.
out in Vegas? You went to a few more spots than we did.
Been to a lot of spots.
Yeah.
They tend to start running into each other. I think this year we've never went. Ocean Prime is still somewhat, I'll call it a franchise, but they have multiple locations in the big cities.
Okay.
But Ocean Prime we went to this year was really, really good.
And that's a steakhouse?
Well, they do both. So
Okay.
Ocean Prime is primarily seafood, but they do prime steaks also.
Okay.
So they fly all their seafood in that day, so it's all prepped for you fresh. Christina, for the first time, finally got a full lobster tail, two tails actually. We should have pictures of that. I'll put those pictures up because those things were insane. They were, this big, two of them butterflied. They came with amazing sides. I don't even remember what was on the side. I ended up getting a steak and then I think shrimp also. And the vibe inside Ocean Prime in Vegas is awesome. It's all glass, faces the strip, and it's almost set up like three sections. They have these couches, a really cool like cascading light ceiling. So it's not like traditional steakhouse. It's more like, it feels like a swanky lounge.
Okay.
But overlooking the strip, and the food and service is all top notch.
Where is it at?
I'm trying to think if it's in Caesars. It's in one of the.
A little bit down from the Wynn?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Like in the middle of the strip. I can't remember which one it is, and they all run together because we went to Hell's Kitchen, we went to Bellagio's. I can't remember the steakhouse in the Bellagio. But that was really good. And then we went to a new Brazilian steakhouse across from the Wynn inside of the fashion mall. And it's It's a Brazilian name. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But it was really good. We went in there, and it's traditional Brazilian steakhouse. If you guys ever been to Fogo or anything like that, really good. But these guys were on top of it. Everything was really fresh. That's something that I think we should go next year too, because it's a good experience. You know, you get a ton of food, you know, and it's less than $100 for all prime cuts of meat, and they have a full salad bar and all of that stuff. But another really good time. The one place we didn't get to go to this year was the buffet, the Win Buffet or Bacchanal. And you never got a chance. You went to Win, but not Bacchanal Buffet.
No,
right?
not Bacchanal. Nope.
So we got to go to that one next year. Those buffets, to me, are the top 2 buffets in Vegas. And Evan, when I say buffet, it's not Old Country Buffet.
Yeah.
We got to take you
I was thinking like Circus Buffet.
No, I don't think it's like the Circus.
Yeah, because we avoided that. So
good idea.
Yeah.
We'll take you to one of these next year. That I had reservations. It's just with all the other stuff we had going on, we didn't have time to get out there that one day.
Yep.
But we did make it to Capo too.
Nice.
And I know you've been to Capo's, right? So we went and met a good friend of mine who lives in Vegas, him and his wife, and went to Capo's for a night and had massive meatballs and lasagna. And you guys got to go to Capo's Steakhouse. It's off the strip. It's one of those places that somebody has to tell you about in order to find it, but amazing Italian food, and it's the only place supposedly that Al Capone's secret family recipe sauce is at. And they've been on TV multiple times now. They've gotten to be well known, but it's about 15 minutes off the strip, and definitely something worth going and visiting.
The cool thing about like going out to eat and going to the clubs and stuff is like everything is facing the strip. So when you're sitting there at dinner, you're just watching like all these cars from SEMA, like people that bring their personal cars out. You just see like a wide body Aventador going by, and then you see like a Supra, and you're just like, this is awesome. Yeah. Like we don't get that every day.
We went to Tao that night, right? And we were hanging out on the balcony there, and all the cars were coming by, and I forget who had it because it was all over the internet. It was that taxi livery Aventador.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? So I saw it all online after that, but he was driving back and forth there. And that's when they were setting up F1 too. So they were setting all the pedestals in the fountains of the Venetian. So all the water was gone out of there, and they were overlooking that. It was
crazy.
It was a interesting experience for sure. But overall, I mean, a great place to eat and shop and have some fun.
Yeah.
So I think moving from that, let's talk about our return from SEMA. Obviously, SEMA was great. We got back to the shop. I think we all took a few days to kind of regroup. I know, Evan, you were buried in photos. How many photos do you think you took out there this year?
It was close to 5 figures, I think. It was a lot.
Holy cow.
Yeah. No, it was a lot. But that wasn't just label stuff. That was like personal and everything like that. But total, I think it was like 7,000 or 8,000.
And you said, because you were kind of filming behind the scenes of
and videos.
Just stuff we're doing. You haven't even looked through some of it?
Oh, I have thousands of videos from prep from here at the shop before, and it's extensive.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also buried in schoolwork too. But
you go to school?
Try to.
All right. Where do you go to school, Evan?
Grand Valley. Studying to be film and video major. But we passed all my classes. We weren't sure. If we were going to pass them, but we barely passed them.
Oh, barely.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, but we did.
All right. So semester 2, how's it going to look this year because, going into spring, it gets busy.
Yep.
Got a lot of car stuff going on, and that's around time exams will be hitting. You can't be just stepping out and being like,
Right.
What's the plan?
The nice part is the semester is a little bit lighter than it was last semester. A lot more like elective-ish based more classes, whereas last semester was like science, math, English, like all the really hardcore classes. So that'll be nice. That will help a lot. And also just some of my classes are online, so like they don't require as much. Like I don't have to be. A lot of it last semester was like I just missed class.
Right.
And that kind of wasn't really necessarily the homework. It was just the classwork that I couldn't do.
Yep.
So that's nice, kind of being able to take a call from like wherever or like just online, and then just kind of prioritizing stuff differently.
Yep. What made you, I guess, choose? What's the major actually called? Film and video.
Film and video. Yep.
Production. What made you choose that? When did you think? you found an interest in pursuing that further.
I'm still not 100%.
Sure.
But, I don't think anyone is when they go into college.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go to something in there. Like, that's what I want to
Yeah.
go into, is something in that world. And under that degree, there's so many different routes you can take and stuff like that. So that's kind of the main reason why, just because, like, I know I want to do something in there. I just don't really know what yet. So I figured go in there, maybe minor in photography, but I kind of already know how to do that. So I don't know about that. But
and that industry is very difficult to make it in, unless you're with a big company or a production company or something like that. So I think a lot of that, I don't know it because obviously I don't work in that world, but it seems like it's more personal to you, what you want to make of it. I think there's going to be that balance like we have with the cars. It's like you could go out and make more money doing something else probably, but you're not going to get the enjoyment or the fulfillment that out of the work that you would by doing something that's touches an interest that's inside of you. And that's what I always say. I think school's great for teaching fundamentals, teaching some maybe common sense things or things to look out for, how to talk to people, or if an opportunity presents itself, maybe it sets you up to be more confident to attack it. I don't always think school is the answer for everybody. I don't think going to college for a major sets you up to be, I guess, any more or less successful if you don't have that inside of you. I was always a firm believer that if you have a drive to do something really good, whether that's sweeping the floor, whether that's making a hamburger, whether that's learning trigonometry, whatever that is, if you have a passion to do that and do that really well, you're going to be good at it. And I think schooling has its place for that, but also at the same time, don't be scared to try something, especially when you're younger, that might push your comfort level. Because what ends up happening, and you hear it with a lot of people, is as you get older, as you get in relationships, if you have kids, it really limits some of the things you can do without having a drastic negative effect on your family if it doesn't work out. When we're younger, we can take those risks and we can jump off, a platform. And if it doesn't work out, we can get up easier and brush ourselves off and keep going. Well, when you got kids or you got a wife or you got a house payment or you got multiple cars, insurance, you can't just do that and make a mistake and not have a big repercussion. And that's why I always tell, I still get younger people that come up to us and say, how you get started in it? And I said, well, I started 20 years ago.
Right.
And I was working full time too. Yeah. And then I screwed up in the midst of 18 years of doing it. So I was able to brush off, but I don't have kids. I don't have a family. I've had to sell stuff in the past financially because I either got the short end of a stick in a partnership or somebody didn't like the way that I was doing things and thought they could do it better and made a change. And ultimately I paid the price for that. But at the end of the day, those are material items that you can sell. And I always was like, well, if you have to sell it, sell it. You can get it back, and you can usually get it back bigger and better. And that's really what's happened. I didn't used to think that way when I was in my 20s, but as you get older and you learn through some of those trials, you realize you can come back stronger. As long as you're willing to put in the work and you learn from your lessons and you say, listen, I'm going to keep going at it, because that's the other thing. You can't be scared to get back up and keep doing it. Yeah. If you are, then it flushes you right out and you go do something. And, my dad is a good example of that, of not taking risks. And I think he'd be the first to tell you. He was a first generation Greek. Came over on a boat with his family. His parents didn't speak English. His dad worked in the GM plants for 40 years, not speaking English. My grandma was a stay-at-home wife, and when my dad got here, he was instructed, you go out and work. And I was like 12, 13, and it was get a paper route in Flint, Michigan, and deliver papers, because you have to make money. And when you come over with nothing, which I can't imagine that nowadays. We have some friends and some people that have done that. They've left countries that are in war or turmoil, and they come over here literally with nothing, and they make a life and they're successful. I can't imagine having those challenges, but they came over here, and, immigrants usually have that work ethic of like, listen, we have to work. There is no other option. And, in my dad's family, it was, you get a job, you stick with that job. You don't You don't leave that job.
Okay.
Because what's guaranteed to you? Nothing. You know, we don't have schooling. We don't have any of the stuff that some other people would have. So my dad got a job. He worked a couple jobs. He worked in dealerships, was a good sales guy for Ford in Bay City. And then he got an opportunity with Airgas, the industrial gas and welding company. And my dad was there for 40-something years, worked his way up and made a great career, great life for me and my brother and our family. My mom worked in the school system for years. So he had some opportunities that came up, which were he had the opportunity to buy into a dealership at one point when he was working in the dealership or become a partner. And because of the way that his values were instilled in him, he said no, because it was risky. It required capital investment. His partners that ended up doing it ended up being millionaires, right? And I think he regretted that, and he told me that. And then he had some opportunities to take where he sacrificed his family, sacrificed staying for the family, as opposed to taking an opportunity to become a partner in a store in Battle Creek. In Airgas, he had some opportunities to take over a store. And this was when I was just starting high school, and obviously I was big into sports. And he didn't want to throw my, sport life and my, social life up with my high school career and pick us up and move us down here where we knew nobody. So he sacrificed that opportunity for his family and just stayed in Bay City and did what he did. And those are the experiences that stick with me. And I think that's why me and my dad were very different. When I started into cars, my dad came out and he was very harsh. You should not be doing this. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to get yourself into trouble. And that's straight up. He was upset with me. And because I was taking risks and I was doing things that could have a negative outcome. But I learned from him, and they always say generations do things opposite.
Oh, yeah. Kind of the same way.
Excuse me. And I continued to do what Dad told me wasn't in my best interest. And it was many years, so probably 15 years. And one year, I remember my dad coming to me and say, hey, I really apologize for the way that, I told you couldn't do it. And I said, you didn't have to apologize. That's the way we were brought up. I don't resent any of that. That was my dad's experiences, and that was him just doing his best for me. And we really bonded, over those years as I continued to do what I wanted to do. And I think I earned his respect that I was going out there and figuring it out.
And if anything, it gives you motivation. I always love that. Like, oh, you can't do this.
It's a challenge,
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And it's a challenge that you're not trying to hurt anybody, but you're just trying to challenge and say, I'll show you that I can do it. I can figure it out. And I think our parents, the adversity that we get from our parents is stronger than anybody else. Somebody that walks in, a stranger, and says, you guys suck, you're never going to be good, but who cares? But when your family, not that they would ever say that, but if your family says, hey, why would you try that? Why would you do that? It almost is that like internal challenge of like, okay, I'll show you I love you guys, but
watch this.
I don't think I've grown up a little bit, like I'm your kid, but I'm not your kid. My mom's always like, you're still my little boy. And my mom, she's 5'6", and I'm, 6'5", towering over, and she hugs me, and, I make a cringy face, and just because that's kind of who I am. And she's like, you're still my little boy. Come over here and let me hug you. And I'm like, I know, Ma, I know. But there's those, I think that is true, that they see you still, though, always as, their child, which, that makes sense. It's like when you get a dog, you still see that puppy as they get older. And seeing us step out and do our own thing. I know you have those, you've had those experiences with your parents too. And I think, Evan, you will probably have the same too. Mm-hmm. And I think you maybe have had a little bit of it when we started even talking about you coming over and giving a hand here.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to reach out to your folks too and let them know who you are kind of getting associated with, and that we kind of have the same. Justin and I had talked about it before he even came, that we want to make sure you're successful in what you're doing outside of here. Mm-hmm. Not that this is the number one priority.
Right.
And if we make this the number one priority and we can substantiate that, then that's awesome, because we all won at that point.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately why we sat down and we talked with you about it and said, hey, man, if you want to go after it, this is going to be a good opportunity. Mm-hmm. We got to make it happen, all of us together. We got to contribute, and you got to contribute. But while you're getting your schooling and you're going through that stuff, I think this is a great opportunity for us to all start down a path that just wasn't there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think making sure you pass your classes is very important for us.
Correct.
Yep.
A little more important than getting some rollers.
Yeah, 100%.
And we're more flexible on our schedule than Grand Valley, I think.
This is true. This is true.
But again, I just want everybody to know out there, like the guys that are inside of here, the people that you guys do meet through the podcast are family. You're going to learn some of their stories, some of the stuff that we've already touched base on, some of the stuff that we're currently going through. We've got a ton to share through the podcast, and we kind of bounce around, so we appreciate you guys sticking through it with us. But honestly, I kind of like it that way. I want it to be.
We don't have a plan ever coming into this.
Yeah.
We literally sit down and we're like, what are we talking about today? Just think of something.
And maybe if over time we do them more frequently, we have to have a more structured plan. Yeah. But I think this is just essentially who we are. This is how we run the business. This is how day to day is. If you talk to us in person, it's the exact same thing that you're getting here. Yeah. So again, thank you guys for watching. Please continue to follow, comment. Of course, send us. I appreciate the messages. We've even got some phone calls of people saying they really like watching the podcast. That means a lot to us because I figured everybody would hate it. So even the fact that there's people out there that have received it well just means a bunch, because all of this stuff is really personal to us. So continue to show that love and support. If you got something you want to talk about, of course, reach out to me. Let me know. We'll talk about it in the next episodes coming up. And we're still working on figuring out who we want to bring in here as far as some guests later on in the future, maybe this summer. And maybe at the Auto Salon in less than a couple of weeks, we'll try to do something there off the cuff. That's going to be a really cool experience. But stay tuned, guys. Thanks again for watching. We are out.
See you next time.